Hi, Jamie with UK Extension, and we're out in the perennial garden again. We're going to be in the perennial garden a lot in the month of June because June is kind of the pinnacle of when so many of our wonderful perennials are flowering, and it's a very easy month to have lots of color. As we go through the season, we'll talk more about the later blooming things and stuff, but we're trying to catch things as they bloom. Today I got to call your attention to this lovely allium. This is not like most alliums that are grown from bulbs like tulips and daffodils. This allium behaves more like a true perennial. And this is a perennial plant of the year selection from a few years back known as Millennium. There's a lot of new allium breeding happening in this type that has more of a perennial nature and foliage that stays attractive through the year, where many of the bulb types, which are all wonderful too, but they tend to flower briefly and then disappear till the following year. So what makes Millennium Allium great? Let me start with what blew my mind about it. Just the fact that it survived this story is worth sharing alone. I visited my friend Alan Bush's garden years ago in August. I was working the state fair. He showed me this. It was not flowering. He dug up a little clump of the roots, stuck them in a coffee can, handed it to me. I forgot all about it. We went to dinner. I stuck it behind the seat in my car where it sat in 100-degree heat in a completely sealed, dark-colored vehicle for 3 days while I did my state fair stuff. I then brought the dried out sad mess home, knocked it off my porch. It fell behind the grill, and I found it 2 months later, still alive. I then planted it. Didn't expect it to live. It did. The following year, when it recovered from all of that abuse, I was shocked because it started producing these little purple flowers. And what shocked me wasn't the purple flowers, but the fact that they keep going for 2 solid months, starting now and going through the month of July, they'll get into the earliest part of August and still look nice. Very long bloom season for a perennial. The foliage is attractive. This is slightly hungry right now. It can be much deeper green, but this is Allium Millennium. Anytime a perennial is selected by the Perennial Plant Association's Plant of the Year program, you can be assured, by the way, that list is online. Go to Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year, and there's about 30 plus selections from the last 30 years of one wonderful plant that performs well in most of the U.S., is readily available, affordable, and they want to tell the world about. So that's my long story about Millennium Allium. If you don't grow it, it's starting to work its way into our market. It's not hard to find. Consider this one for a really long blooming, fairly short, nice foliage perennial that will add a different element to your perennial garden.